Fortnite's development began more than 13 years ago in 2011. A lot of people know Fortnite as the Battle Royale, but that was really only the second half of the game's life. Between 2011 and 2017, Fortnite was a completely different game, and it went through a lot of changes. And with all these changes being made, there were countless versions of the game, and subsequently a lot of lost versions. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the lost versions of Fortnite starting all the way back in 2011. This was around the time when Fortnite was first brought to life, but it wasn't called Fortnite. Instead, it was called Fortress Game. Now, this era in the game's production is very obscure. There are no playable builds from this time, and really the only information we have about this version came from an anonymous tipper in 2022. But luckily we do have some gameplay from this era, which is what you're seeing in the background right now. Now, this version of the game was built on Unreal Engine 3, and just for reference, Fortnite is currently built on Unreal Engine 5. Now, the tipper actually gave us quite a bit of information about the game, including features that are not present in today's versions, like Limbo. Limbo was a game mechanic in which for a period of time a mist would cover the entire map, and if you were in a building when the mist reached you, you would die, unless you put a power generator down in your building. Now, this feature may have laid the groundwork for the storm as we know it today. The anonymous tipper also found an early version of the original Fortnite trailer from 2011 in the game files. Now, I'll play the clip side by side with the one that eventually got released, but it's mostly just T-poses and unfinished animations until we reach the end of the trailer, where we encounter something quite peculiar. As you can see, the game is actually called Fortnite, and this was an in-progress version of the trailer only a couple months before they actually released it. So the name of the game was spelled this way for quite a while and was only really changed a couple months before the release of the trailer. All builds of the game from this era are completely lost. Our next era in Fortnite production is the closed test era. Now, not much is known about this stage of production, but it was mostly a transition stage from the original Fortress game to the Save the World version that we know today. On screen right now is a picture of a ticket that was presented at a conference where a select number of people got the chance to play the closed test version. Now, because the people who were testing the game only got to play for a few hours and weren't able to download it on their devices, all versions from this era are completely lost. This is where it starts to get interesting. Enter the online test era. Now, the online test versions are the earliest publicly released builds of Fortnite, and at the time, people could participate in these tests by receiving an invitation or a code, and this is pretty much where most of the work on Save the World was being done. There was no Battle Royale mode at this point, and Save the World was supposed to be what Fortnite was. Now, finding versions of the game from this era is pretty difficult because every person who tested the game at this time was actually forced to sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. But something always slips through the cracks, and that's where we get our earliest fully found version of the game, Online Test version 6.5. I downloaded this version and played it, and that is the gameplay you're currently seeing on your screen. Honestly, this was such a beautiful experience. It's really bare bones and there's not much to do, but most of the base game is there, including weapons and building mechanics and animations. And the game itself is drop dead gorgeous. This build is from 2016 and it was built in Unreal Engine 4. It's interesting to see how many aspects from this version actually made it into our current game, but at the same time it's kind of a bummer how much we really missed out on. I mean, I don't think this is a controversial take, but this version of the game is so much more beautiful than the current version. I mean, no matter how much ray tracing and Unreal Engine 5 features you pack onto the game, it just can't beat this. And the thing is, the performance, even on the highest settings, is still pretty good, but I'm not gonna yap too much about the graphics, so I'll probably leave that for another video. But the game really did have its own personality and it was beautiful. Now, there are a few more versions from this era that were released, but most of them are still lost, so that brings us to our next era. Now, this era was super short-lived. I mean, it was only like a couple months. And the reason it was so short was because Battle Royale released, and so this pretty much made the entire team stop working on Save the World, or the original Fortnite, and focus more on Battle Royale. And unfortunately, no versions from this era have been found. And that brings us to our final era. most people started playing around this time. And a lot of the versions have been found. This was when the OG Fortnite everyone is talking about right now began. And at the same time, unfortunately, it was when Save the World died. I think it's really interesting to see the evolution of Fortnite as a game, because the original vision of the game that they worked on for 6 years from 2011 to 2017 was really all thrown out the window. And even today, Fortnite is trying to get away from the whole battle royale thing and expanding towards becoming a platform for many different types of games. I mean, just the other day they released a trailer for a new first person mode that honestly reminds me of Overwatch. So I mean, we got the Lego, we got the Guitar Hero, we got the Fall Guys, we got the Rocket League, and now we have Overwatch in Fortnite. And after playing the test versions from 2016 and also playing the OG season that just came out, I gotta say that the game will never feel the same as it did back then. And I'm not saying it in a complaining type of way, but simply put, it's running in a completely different engine. I mean, even if they try to make it as faithful as possible to the OG version, it will never really work. But anyways, let me know what y'all think of Fortnite's development across the last 13 years, and comment down below which game you'd like me to cover next.